I remember the box. It was small, navy blue, velvet-lined, exactly the kind of packaging you'd expect for something expensive. She placed it on the kitchen counter like it was nothing, like she was dropping off a souvenir from a layover. They were complimentary, she said casually, pouring herself a glass of water. The hotel gives them out to VIP guests sometimes. Crazy, right? She laughed like it was all a fun surprise, but I didn't laugh with her. The thing was, I'd made the reservation. Weeks ago, when she'd mentioned the San Diego trip, I offered to help like I always did. And I distinctly remembered the room. Standard queen. No upgrades. No frills. Definitely not VIP. Sapphire, I murmured, opening the box to get a better look. The stones caught the light, deep blue and clear like a summer lake. Real or not, they didn't look cheap. Yeah, she said, still avoiding eye contact. Weird, huh? I nodded slowly. Weird. She didn't notice the way I watched her when she turned away. She didn't see the way my mind started clicking quietly but relentlessly. That night, she fell asleep before me, phone still on her nightstand, face down. I shouldn't have checked. I know that. But something about the earrings, it just wouldn't let me go. Her phone wasn't locked. She never used to lock it. That, I realized, would probably change soon. In her photos, I scrolled past the usual, conference slides, selfies, a picture of the ocean from her hotel room. Then I saw it. *T taken on a bed. White sheets. A glass of wine beside the box of earrings. And 2 hands. Hers. And someone else's. A man's hand. Resting next to hers. Not touching, but close. Close enough? I stared at the screen until it dimmed and went black. It's funny how clear the past becomes once you realize it's a lie. After that night, I started looking back, not just on the trip, not just on the earrings, but on everything. And slowly, like threads slipping loose from a too-tight sweater, the pattern started to unravel. There was the canceled trip in April. We were supposed to visit my parents up in Oregon. Everything had been set for weeks. My mom had planned a dinner, my dad cleared his schedule, even my brother was driving in. Then 2 days before we were set to leave, she told me she couldn't go. Something about an emergency client deadline, her voice sharp with urgency, her eyes darting to her phone mid-conversation. I'll just go alone, I said, trying not to sound disappointed. I'm sorry, she said, but I remember thinking she didn't look sorry at all. I spent that weekend trying to convince myself she was just busy. That she cared, just couldn't show it at the moment. I told myself things every partner tells themselves when they don't want to face reality. That she was tired. That I was being needy. That I had to give her space. That this was normal. But it wasn't just that weekend. There were other things. Subtle things. Like the perfumes. She's always worn the same scent, soft and citrusy, something clean and familiar. But lately, when she'd come home late, there was something else on her skin. Heavier. Muskier. Once I leaned in for a hug and smelled something almost spicy, and she flinched, pulling away like my touch surprised her. I said nothing. I think I knew if I asked, the answer wouldn't feel right. And then there was her laptop. That used to be open all the time. She'd leave it on the couch, at the dining table, even in the bathroom while she brushed her teeth. It used to be how we both worked, side by side, laptops open, half working, half talking about the day. We used to share playlists, recommend TED Talks, look up vacation spots while pretending to care about spreadsheets. But then she started locking it. The firm updated security, she said once when I asked. Confidential files, you know? Sure. I knew. Except her job hadn't changed. Her clients hadn't changed. Only her habits had. Sometimes I'd walk into the room and hear the lid snap shut like a mousetrap. Sometimes I'd catch her minimizing windows the moment I appeared. It was all so quiet, so practiced. Like I wasn't even a threat, just an obstacle. I tried not to be suspicious. I told myself people change. That maybe she was just stressed. That maybe I was imagining it. But I wasn't. One afternoon, I decided to stop by her office. I'd been running errands downtown and her building was only 2 blocks away. I figured I'd surprise her. Take her to lunch. It had been a rough week for both of us, and I thought, stupidly, that maybe this was how we could reconnect. I remember walking into the lobby, feeling stupidly nervous, like I was about to ask her out for the first time again. The receptionist looked up and gave me a professional smile. I'm here for Claire, I said. I'm her husband. The smile didn't change. Oh, she just stepped out for a bit, the woman said. I think she ran across the street for a meeting. I glanced toward the windows. Her car was still in the lot. I parked right next to it. Oh, I said, trying not to sound off. Do you know when she'll be back? She shrugged politely. Could be a few minutes. You're welcome to wait. I nodded, took a seat. and sat there for 20 minutes. She never came back in. I texted her after I left. Was in the area. Thought I'd stop by and say hi. She replied an hour later. I wish I'd known. Just got back. That would have been nice, red heart. I stared at that heart emoji for a long time. Felt fake, like it had been pasted in from another conversation. I told myself maybe I just missed her. Maybe she really did go somewhere else and left her car behind. But the part of me that had once believed everything she said was starting to go quiet. It wasn't dead yet, but it was dying. I started noticing her phone habits more. The way she turned off notifications during dinner. The way she took her calls outside when I was in the room. The way she laughed at texts she never explained. Once, I heard her whisper something into the phone as she stood on the back porch. I couldn't make out the words, but I could hear the tone. Gentle, warm, familiar. A tone I hadn't heard from her in a long time. She came back in like nothing happened. I asked who it was. Work stuff, she said. And that was that. We used to go to bed together. Now she stayed up late, claiming she needed to finish reports or respond to clients in other time zones. Her light stayed on long after I'd turned mine off. Some nights, I'd wake up and she wouldn't be in bed at all. I'd find her downstairs, scrolling, typing, zoned out in a way that felt miles away. When I asked if everything was okay, she'd smile like she was reassuring a stranger. Just tired, she'd say. Eventually, I stopped asking. I started writing things down. Not for evidence. Not yet. Just to keep track. It helped me feel sane. It helped me feel like I wasn't imagining things. April 14th. Said she was too busy for the family trip. Went to client dinner instead. Came back late. Different perfume. April 28th. Locked laptop again. Said security update. No sign of actual work. May 3rd. Claimed urgent deadline. Found her scrolling Pinterest at 1 a.m. May 11th. Said she was at a conference. Posted nothing on social. No badge. No swag. Hotel name not mentioned. It wasn't a full picture yet, but the pieces were there. A trail of crumbs, and I was finally paying attention. And still, a part of me wanted to be wrong. That's the worst part, I think. When you want to believe someone so badly, you try to unsee the truth. You try to explain it all away, like your sanity depends on it. And maybe it does. But that photo, that one image of her hand beside his, wouldn't let me forget. No matter how much I wanted to. Every time I thought maybe I was reading too much into things, I saw it again in my mind. The earrings, the wine glass, the hand that didn't belong to me. I stopped bringing it up. I stopped trying to talk about us. Instead, I listened. I watched. I waited. And then, a few weeks later, the final thread snapped. When she forgot to log out of Zoom.it was almost an accident, the way truth finally slipped out. One morning, I was cleaning up the desktop on my laptop, just closing tabs, sorting out old downloads, when I found a link she had once sent me months ago. It was from a shared Zoom invite for her firm's team meetings. We used to joke about it during the pandemic when everyone was still figuring out how not to talk while eating on camera. Out of sheer muscle memory, I clicked it. I didn't expect anything to happen. Honestly, I figured it would say the meeting was expired or the link was invalid. But instead, it opened. Just like that. No waiting room. No password prompt. And I was in. I hadn't planned on spying. That's not what this was supposed to be. But the moment the screen loaded, I froze. There she was. Claire. Hair done up. That practiced, professional smile she wore during meetings. She looked sharp, confident. Someone I almost didn't recognize. I saw 4 or 5 faces on the screen. Names I didn't know, except for one, Garrett T. His video was off, but the name jumped out at me like a warning flare. I'd seen it before. On her phone, in her messages. Buried in call logs. Always short calls. A few minutes here. 20 minutes there. Nothing overt. But frequent. She'd said he was a client. One of the big accounts. High maintenance. Lots of calls. Always demanding. But something about that name had always made my stomach clench. I was about to click out of the meeting. Guilt already crawling up my throat, when someone unmuted. It was a woman, blonde, younger than Claire. "So," she said, smirking, "how's your boyfriend, Claire?" Laughter rippled across the call. Claire smiled, not embarrassed, just amused. "Oh, you mean Garrett?" she said, sipping from a mug. "He's not my boyfriend. He's just persistent." More laughter. Another woman chimed in, mock whispering she means they're in love but won't admit it. Claire rolled her eyes, still smiling. "Please. It's not like that." "Oh really?" someone else teased. "Then who was in that picture you accidentally shared last week?" "Ha!" Claire's face turned just a shade redder. But she didn't deny it. She just smirked, glanced off camera, and said, "I told you that was an accident." The blonde leaned in dramatically. "So it wasn't Garrett?" Claire shrugged, still smiling. No comment. And that was it. That was the moment everything broke open. Because she could have said no. She could have rolled her eyes, laughed, said, "He's just a client, calm down." She could have corrected them, brushed it off. Instead, she played along, teasing, enjoying the attention, letting it linger. She wasn't denying it because there was nothing to deny. I exited the Zoom before the bile in my throat turned to something louder. I sat back in my chair and stared at the wall, stunned. My ears rang like I just walked away from an explosion. I kept thinking maybe I misunderstood. Maybe she was just playing along for the sake of banter. But no. You don't laugh like that when your name's being linked to someone in a room full of coworkers unless you're comfortable with the idea. Unless the line has already been crossed. You don't smile unless you've stopped caring who sees. The picture they mentioned? I hadn't seen that one. Not yet. But the thought of it haunted me. All I could think about was how many inside jokes were swirling around me that I didn't understand. How many people at her office knew something I didn't. How long I'd been walking around like a man carrying a bucket with a hole in it, pretending everything was still full. And I kept coming back to one word. Garrett. I started pulling threads. Looking for him. Google gave me nothing at first. Just some vague links to consulting firms. But when I dug deeper, I found him. Garrett Thompson. Senior strategist. Based in San Diego. That lined up. I checked LinkedIn. There he was, a perfect teeth, blazer, self-assured smile. His page even listed her company as a key partnership. My heart sank. It was real. I clicked through his tagged photos, anything I could find. Most were conference *TS. Events. Cocktail mixers. Until I found one buried in an older gallery from a company offsite. There she was. Claire. Smiling. Arm casually draped around Garrett's shoulder like it meant nothing. Like I would never see it. They weren't alone. It was a group photo. But still the closeness. The way she leaned in. The way she was holding her wine glass in the exact same way as the photo I'd seen on her phone. It all matched. All of it. The earrings. The wine. The unnamed hand. It had always been him. I scrolled through Garrett's feed until my vision blurred. Conference check-ins, hotel tags, even a room service tray posted with the caption, "Late-night strategy session with the dream team." The timestamp? Same night she got back from San Diego. She hadn't even bothered to hide it. That was what hit me the hardest. Not just the betrayal, but the ease of it. The comfort. The carelessness. She'd built a whole world without me in it. A second life where I was just the man back home paying bills, washing sheets, making sure the lawn got mowed. And now? Now I was the man who finally knew. I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't. She came home late again, said something about traffic, kissed me on the cheek like she always did. I let her. I watched her set down her bag, move through the house like she owned it, like it didn't reek of lies. And then I excused myself. Took a long walk. I needed time. Not to forgive. Not to plan. Just to breathe. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind wouldn't stop racing. I kept hearing her voice from that Zoom call, light and laughing. The way her coworkers had joked about her boyfriend. The way she didn't deny it. And I realized something. She wasn't just betraying me. She was laughing about it. It wasn't a secret to them. It was an inside joke. And I was the punchline point. 2 days after the Zoom call, I woke up and knew I couldn't keep living like this. Not in this house. Not with her. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't give her the satisfaction of some explosive argument she could twist into victimhood. I moved through the morning like a man on a mission. Quiet. Cold. Focused. She was still asleep when I started. The first thing I did was gather her things methodically without anger. Her clothes, her shoes, the perfume bottles she kept on the dresser. I packed them all into 3 neat suitcases and placed them by the front door. Next was the spare key from the bowl by the door. I pocketed it. I changed the passcode to the smart lock. disabled her fingerprint access, logged into the security app and updated the permissions. Every corner of our home was scrubbed of her digital presence in less than 20 minutes. I didn't even break a sweat. I stood in the middle of the living room for a while, staring at the bags. I wasn't trying to make a point. I wasn't trying to humiliate her. This wasn't revenge. This was clarity. She woke up around 10. I heard the bedroom door creak open, her bare feet patting softly on the floorboards. Then silence, probably when she saw the bags. What's going on?" she asked, stepping into the living room, robe pulled tight. I didn't look at her. I just said, "You're leaving." She blinked. "Excuse me? You don't live here anymore." Her eyes narrowed, a rehearsed indignation flickering to life. "What the hell are you talking about? Are you seriously doing this right now?" "I changed the locks," I said calmly. "I've removed your access. Your belongings are packed. That's all there is to it." She stood still, confused, blinking as if the sunlight through the windows was too bright. Then she gave me the look I hadn't seen in years. A look I thought had disappeared after our first anniversary. The one that said, "I know how to get you to back down." "I think we need to talk about this," she said, softening her voice. "Whatever this is, it's clearly some kind of misunderstanding." I laughed. "A small, humorless thing. You mean like the misunderstanding in the hotel room? With Garrett?" Her expression faltered. The color drained from her cheeks. "I saw the photo," I said. "The one on your phone. You didn't even bother deleting it." "That's not." "And the Zoom call," I interrupted. "The one you forgot to lock out. Your coworkers think you and Garrett are a sitcom. You laughed with them. You didn't even try to deny it." Her lips parted, searching for words, but nothing came out. "I gave you time," I said. "More than I should have. I waited to see if you'd come clean. You didn't. So now I'm done." "You're blowing this out of proportion," she said, suddenly shifting tone. "You don't even know what was really happening. That picture, it wasn't what you think." "Then what was it?" I asked, tilting my head. "A staged hotel marketing shoot? A business wine tasting with hands touching under mood lighting." Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. "You think you're the victim here," she finally said, bitterness creeping in. "But you were never present, not really. Always stuck in your own world, your own routine. You left me feeling alone." There it was. The excuse. The inevitable you drove me to its speech. I didn't flinch. I didn't shout. I just stared at her, cold and tired. "You could have said something," I said. "You could have asked for more. Or left. Instead, you lied. Over and over. And then laughed about it." Her eyes welled with tears. The kind she used to *p*****. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "No," I said, picking up her purse from the hallway hook and placing it beside the suitcases. "You made a series of choices. Every day. And this is the result." She didn't move. Just stood there, wrapped in her robe, like she thought she could wait me out. Like if she stared long enough, I'd crack. But I didn't. Eventually, she walked upstairs. I heard the water running, probably rinsing her face, gathering herself. Then the thud of shoes hitting the floor, drawers opening and closing. She came back down fully dressed. Black jeans, gray coat, no makeup, just a flat expression, like she was saving the tears for the car ride. "I'll come back for the rest later," she said. "No, you won't," I said, looking her straight in the eye. "Everything else will be boxed and dropped off at your sister's." She hesitated, then nodded, jaw clenched. At the door, she turned back one last time. "You're really not going to talk to me about this?" "I think we've said everything we need to," I replied. "You just didn't say it out loud." She stood there for a moment, like maybe she thought I'd fold. I didn't. She picked up her bags and walked out. I didn't follow. I didn't watch her drive away. I just turned back toward the empty hallway and breathed. The silence felt like oxygen. Over the next few days, she texted, called, left voicemails. The first few were apologetic. Then came the defenses. Then, slowly, the gaslighting began. "It's not what it looked like. You're being paranoid." The photo was just a weird angle. You never asked how I felt. Each message chipped away at what little patience I had left. Not because they hurt, but because they were hollow. She was playing every card but the truth. Not once did she say Garrett's name. Not once did she admit it. Then came the guilt tactics. Do you want to throw away all these years? Don't you at least owe me a conversation? You'll regret pushing me away like this. I didn't respond. She finally sent the last text 3 days later. You always shut down when it matters most. I tried to reach you. I hope someday you'll understand. No apology. No acceptance. Just more projection. Like I was the one who broke something sacred. That was the last message I received. I didn't block her. I didn't scream into the void. I didn't post anything online. I just lived. The house was quiet without her. Not empty quiet. I made coffee every morning and didn't have to wonder whose day I was supposed to orbit around. I came home from work and didn't dread the way she'd be half distracted, phone glowing, smile too forced. There was no one to lie to anymore. No one to pretend for. No one to pace the house with fake guilt or overcompensate with empty kisses. It wasn't joy, exactly, but it was peace. And peace was more than enough. I thought silence would be the end of it. I thought she'd vanish, embarrassed, and leave me to rebuild quietly. For a few days, that seemed to be the case. No new texts. No calls. Her sister confirmed she'd picked up the boxes I dropped off. That should have been the end. It wasn't. The collapse came the following week, like a bad storm delayed just long enough for you to forget the sky had ever darkened. She showed up at my job. Walked right through the front door like she still had a place in my life. Like she hadn't dismantled it from the inside. Claire's here, my coworker said, poking her head into my office with a confused expression. I felt my stomach drop. I stepped out and there she was standing in the lobby, arms folded, eyes blazing like I'd wronged her. We need to talk, she said, too loud for comfort. No, I said. We don't. She followed me outside, refusing to take the hint. You can't just shut me out. You don't get to be the only one with a voice. I gave you chances to speak. You used them to lie. She scoffed. You went through my stuff. You spied on me. You invaded my privacy. I laughed once, sharp and cold. That's rich coming from you. I have rights too, she snapped. You think you can just change the locks and throw me out like trash? You threw yourself out, I said. I just opened the door. That's when the mask cracked. She went from pleading to posturing. Fast. Like a switch had flipped. I'll get a lawyer, she said, her voice low. You think you can keep the house? The studio? You're out of your mind. Half of everything is mine. You really want to play that game? If you're going to treat me like a villain, she spat, then fine. I'll play the role. I didn't answer. I just turned and walked back inside. She was gone by the time I looked out the window 5 minutes later. But the message had been delivered, she wasn't finished. The next day, I got the first email from her attorney. Her claim? Unlawful eviction. Marital property dispute. Emotional damages. Damages. The woman who laughed on Zoom about her secret boyfriend was now accusing me of mental cruelty. I handed everything over to my own attorney, a calm, gray-haired woman named Lynn who had seen more betrayals than I could count. She flipped through the documents with barely a raised eyebrow. She's bluffing, Lynn said. But we'll treat it seriously. I provided everything. Screensh *TS. Dates. Travel confirmations. Purchase receipts. Zoom transcripts. Even the digital invoice showing Garrett's name linked to her hotel reservation. Lynn raised an eyebrow at that one. She used his loyalty card for the hotel? Looks like it. Bold move. When the first court date came, Claire cried in front of the judge. Actual tears? Voice trembling. Said she'd been blindsided. Said I'd never communicated. Claimed I was emotionally distant for years, that I humiliated her by throwing her out without notice. She didn't mention Garrett. Not once. But I did. I laid out everything calmly with evidence. I didn't attack her. I didn't raise my voice. I just told the story the way it happened with timelines and facts and proof. No drama. No performance. The judge saw through her. Maybe it was the documents. Maybe it was her shaky answers when asked about her travel expenses or the way she danced around simple questions like who paid for the hotel upgrade. Maybe it was because people like her always slip eventually. The ruling wasn't instant, but when it came, it was clean. I kept the house. I kept the studio. No spousal support. The court found intentional marital misconduct with financial entanglement. In plain English, she lied, she used shared resources to cover her affair, and she got caught. She left the courthouse quiet for once. But the storm wasn't over. She called me 3 days later. I didn't answer. Then she emailed. The subject line read, "One last chance." I opened it just to see. I didn't handle things well. I was scared. I was confused. But I never stopped loving you. Garrett was a mistake. He doesn't mean anything to me. He used me, and when it all fell apart, he bailed. I miss you. I want to fix this. Please don't shut me out forever. I didn't reply. She kept reaching out. Different tone every time. First soft, then bitter, then nostalgic, then threatening. I could take this further. You're not the saint you think you are. I've got messages I could show people, things you said in anger. Don't push me. Lynn saw the emails and said, this isn't uncommon. You took control away from her. Now she's scrambling. Should I be worried? Only if you respond. So I didn't. That silence, my refusal to play her game, seemed to break something in her. The last message I got was a voicemail. No threats. Just her voice, soft and tired. I didn't think it would end like this. I didn't think you'd actually stop loving me. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, listening to her words dissolve into static. The truth was, I hadn't stopped loving her all at once. It was slow. Painfully slow. Like watching a building collapse brick by brick, helpless to stop it. Love doesn't die with impact, it dies with erosion. With lies. With silence where honesty should have been. She'd spent months making withdrawals from our trust, and I'd been the fool who kept depositing more. But the bank was empty now. And all I had left was peace. Not victory. Not revenge. Just peace. She came back weeks later. I was trimming the hedges when I saw her car crawl into the cul-de-sac. It parked across the street, engine running for a long moment before shutting off. Then she stepped out. Same old coat. No makeup. A letter in her hand. She didn't knock. She didn't yell. She just stood by the front steps like a memory made solid. I didn't speak. I didn't move. Finally she said, he left me. Just like that. Like it was a headline and not a confession.